Well, good afternoon. My name is Robin Morris, and I'm the author of Mama Got Rhythm and Daddy Got Rhyme, a children's story for young readers. And my inspiration to write comes from my interest, my various interests in history, cultures. I really like identifying and getting to know other people and their different walks of life. So my interests definitely influence my choice of writing, and I write for children. And some of my inspirations, or I can say my influences, I would say would have to be Walter Dean Myers, Faith Ringgold. Those are authors, some of the authors that I actually grew up reading, and I actually had an opportunity to meet Faith Ringgold when I was a young girl, and I thought that was a pretty neat experience. I did not decide at that point that I wanted to be an author, but she's definitely someone who I look to in terms of her work, and I like her writing style. And I also love to read. To me, I think any good writer is a good reader. So I'm also inspired and influenced by my advocacy for literacy. I'm a literacy advocate, and I believe that any good writer is a good reader. So I'm constantly encouraging young people to read, and which is one reason why I love to write for them. Some of my other influences, I would say, I love reading poetry as well. So there's a poet by the name of I.E., then Langston Hughes, Lucille Clifton. Those are some of my influences as well.
Yes. My name is Bill Underwood, and I write because it's fun when I have time to write. I like to use my imagination, or as small children would sometimes say, let's pretend. And that's exactly what my books have. It's all pretend, it's all imagination. My influence to start writing these little books, my wife. My wife has a tendency to misplace things, and we never can find them around the house. So that caused me to write my very first story. Instead of getting angry, I wrote a story about a squirrel who could not find its nuts. And then camping, we used to get harassed when we go camping out a place up in Canada. We get harassed by the raccoons. So I wrote a story about a raccoon who harassed people at night. And it's in this book. The book is basically both of them about a crow who tells stories. Now I forgot how this crow came to being. The crow is called Corvus. He's the region's storyteller, and he tells stories about all the creatures, animals, and so on in the region. I'm an ex-school teacher. I taught in Melvindale for 32 years, regular ed, and I went into special ed, Virgil Autistic Center in Garden City. I did that for 7 years, and finally I retired, and then I had time to do this. But now I have a grandchild at home, which my wife is with right now. And I shouldn't be here. I should be home helping her, but she told me to come over here. So it was my wife who influenced me, and I like to write because of influences. Some of the writers in the past, I don't have too many. I used to like H.G. Wells and Jules Verne, but I'd be more for the guy down in the end, too, who likes to write sci-fi. And I always had this thing, I'd like to write something someday. So I put together 2 little books here in the last few years. Is it going to be a 3rd book? I don't know. If I have time, maybe. We'll see. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Doug Alexander. Why do I write? It is fun, and as most of the other folks have said, it's kind of a compulsion, I guess. I feel like I have to do it. I've always liked to tell stories and amuse people, and when I strike on a story that gets people to laugh, eventually I started getting the idea I should write them down. So over the last 20 years or so, I started writing stories. And once I got to the point where I had quite a few of them, I figured I better get organized about it and edit them and put them on the computer, which I didn't have the benefit of when I started. And that's why I write. I just enjoy it. It's not a living for me. I'm an attorney. I wish it was a living for me, because I'd like to stop being an attorney and just be a writer. What are my influences? I reckon I first got really interested in writing when I was in high school. I had a really good English teacher, and had a creative writing course, and she required that we read, I think, 2 novels a week, which at the time seemed like an impossible task, but by the end of the year it was real easy, and I was reading 4 or 5 or 6 a week simultaneously. And as somebody just said, your name? Robin, I think. You can't be a good writer if you're not a good reader. Reading has helped me an awful lot. I didn't learn grammar in school. I learned it by reading. And as far as authors that I have been inspired by, you've already heard Mark Twain, Charles Dickens, H.G. Wells, Jules Verne. Those are the folks that I read growing up. And I'm sure that English teacher, God bless her, was probably the primary one, because she, for whatever reason, liked the stories that I wrote. And I managed to save some of them, so that's how I got started.
Have each of the authors briefly describe their writing process and what tips they would give to those in attendance who are serious about writing. We'll start again with Cheryl. It seems to be a logical order.
Thanks, Andy.